Hi everyone, it's Jerry. The young Faustino Oro of Argentina has just today met his final requirement for the International Master title. He accomplished this remarkable feat at only 10 years, 8 months, and 16 days, breaking the record previously held by Abhimanyu Mishra. Let's have a look at one of his games from the tournament where he set this new record. He's playing white here against FIDE master Alex Villa Tornero. This was a round 6 game, my favorite game of his from this tournament, and some nice tactics in this one to be sure. The opening we work with, Benoni defense, where Faustino deploys his dark square bishop on f4, pointing at the sensitive d6 square, a base point in black's camp. The follow-up is h3, taking care to preserve this bishop on this diagonal against any knight h5 ideas. It now can fall back to h2. And after castles, it's e3. So for now, at least, just a single step with the e-pawn. White can't really have it all, let's say, by having the bishop on f4 and playing e4 instead here. E4 would be tactically flawed. Black could take on e4 and get the material back after rook to e8. Bishop d3, there's f5. Black gets the piece back. So for now, it's just a single step with the e-pawn. Black continues with knight a6, allowing white to capture the knight. This knight a6 move is one of the top moves that's played. Faustino does go ahead and capture the knight here. Black does then have a file to work with, is okay taking on double isolated a-pawns. Black's looking forward to coordinated pressure on b2 with the b8 rook, g7 bishop. Now, as white, if you're not a fan of allowing that file to open up and instead play bishop c4, do know that black can still make headway on the queen side in one of two ways. Black will either be able to successfully play b5 and get these pawns rolling, or still have an opened b file. How does this look? Well, let me put on some moves. Here we go. Black's prepping b5. White shuts it down. Black preps it again. And you can stop it here with a5. You can stop b5. But black can still play it. And in the end, there you go. We have a very active black rook. My favorite piece, really, in this position. Some nice points, offensive and defensive points with the rook. Okay. In this game, it's the simple bishop captures knight, followed up with what move? Not castles. Instead, rook to c1. This is precise. If you go ahead and simply castle here, what are you doing after rook to b8? How are you defending b2? How you would like to defend b2 is with b3, allowing a pawn to have that responsibility. But if you play b3 here, black would have knight to h5, hitting the bishop and the knight on c3. And white would have to do some awkward moves here, like bishop to g5, but then there's f6. This bishop eventually gets hunted by the knight, the very thing white is trying to prevent with this earlier h3 move. Don't want to allow this knight for bishop capture. Bishop h4, there's g5. Eventually, knight takes bishop happens one way or another. So, the difference here with rook to c1, now after rook to b8, no problem. There's the convenient reply, b3. A pawn watches over a pawn. Knight h5 in this case, no problem. We can go to h2. The rook defends the knight. Okay. We follow up here with a5. Castles. Black continues here with bishop a6. Computer recommendation is rook to e8. an eye on the e4 square, trying to hold up this plan by white to play e4, e5, rattling the d6 pawn, trying to influence this point. And in the process, white can easily obtain a passed d pawn. We're going to see in this game the evaluation shift very quickly because of this central thrust by white, because this e4 advance is not addressed. If white insists in a position like this, trying to play e4, black can immediately put to use this half-opened b file. Rook b4 is very strong, yet again holding up the e4 advance. I'll put on a couple more moves from here to give you an idea what black's idea is. Knight e4, very strong move. Exchanging a pair of knights like this now allows these new ideas by black. Without the knight on c3, watching over a4, a4 becomes an idea. Rook pawn attacking a knight pawn, undoubling a pawn in the process, and maybe this guy here becomes passed. Okay. Also know, in a position like this, the rook on b4 is not stable. It can be kicked away from the e4 square with a3, but there is a downside with a3. The queen would now have a responsibility to babysit the b pawn. No a2 pawn, no convenient a pawn around to watch over b3. Okay, in this game, it is bishop a6, rook to e1, not really an inconvenience, out of the line of fire, and white's now ready to go with e4. Follow up, knight h5, bishop h2, sure enough, and after f5, here comes e4. So black in this position captures on e4, and white is winning. I mean, it's already a very difficult position for black. This is how strong this push is in this position. What's considered best here? f4. But even in the case of f4, white has a good follow-up with e5. And the follow-up, knight e4, very strong. These 2 points, c5 and d6, come under tremendous pressure. Okay. In this game, it's the capture on e4. Black has overlooked something. After the knight recapture, increasing the pressure here on d6, black was banking on knight f4 to tame this bishop, tame the pressure on d6. But the knight can be captured, and after rook takes, how would you continue here? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, this is the tactic black overlooked. You can take on d6. The idea? Well, let's find out. After queen takes knight, the move played in the game, we have a skewer. Rook to e6, the most sensitive square made use of. No way to move the queen and defend the bishop now. The bishop falls, and what are you supposed to do here now as black? These pawns are way too weak. They're just going to drop one by one. There goes the c pawn. And what do you try here? Computer recommends rook 4 to f5, and okay, you could take another pawn. You could look at rook c6, getting to the 7th rank. The best try from the human's point of view is the move played in the game, an exchange sacrifice, at least rattling the black king position, maybe hoping for a perpetual check at some stage. Okay, in comes queen takes h3, d6, passed pawn runs. In the process, d5 is now opened for the queen to pounce. Queen d5 hits with check. Rook f3, queen d5, king h8, and rook c8. I really like this follow-up. Some nice calculation here. The rook is hanging, but if you take the rook, we got queen takes rook here. That's not the end of the line, but what other option does black have here? In the game, it is queen takes rook. If you block with the bishop, white has queen d4 check here. And this covers the queen g4 check by black. After king g8, you can continue to push now. There's no fear of a perpetual check. For instance, rook g3 here. The king is able to run away all the way over here to b2, where the queen will defend the king along the diagonal. And if there's a follow-up rank check, no problem, this rook can always fall back to c2. Okay, no perpetual check idea for black in this position with rook g3. In this game, after the check, it is queen takes rook, and black continues here with queen c1 check. If the rook is captured on a6, it's going to be a mate in 3. White has calculated he has queen a8 in this position. Block with the queen, she's a goner, bishop's a goner, king's a goner. Okay. Queen c1 check is tried. Black flicks in a few checks here. There is no perpetual, however. He is able to hide. In fact, with this last move, it's not strictly defensive. White has an eye on that back rank now. So it's black who must go on the defensive. King g2, this guy here, still poison. Queen c2 check in this position. King g3 can be played and there's no good follow-up check. What's tried? Bishop d4, queen d2, and follow-up here is bishop f6. Now, if black tries something different, let's say bishop b6, looks like the rook is trapped, well, you could take that bishop and push the pawn and land a check and get to c8, exchanging queens and winning with the pawn. Okay, in this game after queen to d2, it is bishop f6. Any other try here? If you take the rook in this position, you could take the bishop with check, and simplest is probably just to exchange queens like this. Queen c4 was landing with a check there, 2 connected passed pawns. Yeah, white is winning this king and pawn ending. Okay, so bishop f6 in this game. Rook takes a7, a4, and pop quiz here, final pop quiz. How would you continue? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, it's never too late to go wrong. How many of you were calculating queen h6? Looking for a checkmate on h7. Black would now have a draw, a perpetual check, with queen c2, with queen f5, or even bishop e5. Okay, what does white play first? Rook c7, cutting out the queen c2 idea. Only after this point is covered does the queen go in to h6. Okay, white well aware of the resources by black. In this game, queen d8 is played. If you go to e8, the pawn can advance with tempo. So queen d8 here. Now we go in with queen h6. Queen g8, defending h7, but in this case you can still take on h7, and this is the last move of this game. Black now resigns. What do? The only move would be to capture the rook. White would then have a check, only move, and the bishop falls with check. King h7, you can now push, and white's getting a new queen soon enough. The only active move for black in this position would be queen d5, eyeing up a check on d2. No problem. White is there in time, getting the new queen, covering d2. But in this one, after rook captures h7, black simply resigns. So what did you think of this one? Or really, what do you think of this young Faustino Oro? I imagine he has his eye next on becoming the youngest grandmaster ever. Feel free to share some words, maybe some words of encouragement for him in the comment section below. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care. Bye.